Today's conversation is on dwelling in and from imagination. The idea is from the vision, from the destination, from the ideal outcome, that which we imagine, we experience what we call the journey. And another way of looking at this is what happens aside the journey. So we've got the destination, we've got the journey to the destination, which Neville Goddard refers to as the bridge of incidents. And there's a side benefit of going through this process. I call this 5 sensory to 6 sense integration. 6 sense, being intuition, imagination, from beyond, is connecting with the 5 sensory experience, being sight, taste, touch, smell, and hearing. These 5 sensory elements, which were a result and effect of mind, original creation, is further being integrated through our consciousness with the 6th sense, the world where all things exist, all things are possible, and the world that is revealed in our imagination. Hermes Trismegistus, in the Corpus Hermeticum, said, "Things upon earth do not advantage those in heaven, but all things in heaven do profit and advantage all things upon earth." So another way of saying this is how James Allen said it in his book, The Heavenly Life. And he states, "Having betaken himself to the divine refuge within, and remaining there, a man is free from sin. All his yesterdays are as the tide-washed and untrodden sands. No sin shall rise up against him to torment and accuse him and destroy his sacred peace. The fires of remorse cannot scorch him, nor can the storms of regret devastate his dwelling place. His tomorrows are as seeds which shall germinate, bursting into beauty and potency of life, and no doubt shall shake his trust, no uncertainty rob him of repose." So the premise of what we're referring to here is that the inner world, the world of heaven, the kingdom within, is higher than, greater than, and the originator of the 5 sensory integration as well as the 5 sensory experience, outer world. And it is happening in and from us. We are the ones that it is being brought through. We have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. And if you go deeper into it, you could say there's a superconscious. But we'll focus on the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious mind being what you select, how you interpret your desires, understanding specifically of your reactions, seeing that many of our reactions, what we are recreating in the world, is stored in our subconscious mind, as in we don't consciously choose to have disempowering experiences or resistance-based experiences on the journey to fulfilling our desire or our destination. It's not something that we consciously choose, but we seek to understand ourselves so that we can find the source of this information, this programming, and change our beliefs and assumptions to relate to a flow-based, harmony-based journey to the destination. And I'm going to relate back to my last video in which I talk about the concept of flow. Now, that stated, we're going through a journey, as mentioned even in the last video, as well as many of my other videos, which I refer to as purification of the mind. It is recognizing our true home, our true state of mind, which is divinely pure, through the journey of bringing forth what we desire by the release of disempowering and limiting beliefs and assumptions in relation to ourselves, in relation to others, in relation to all that happens on the journey, the bridge of incidents, to our destination. Thus, the journey is as valuable as the destination. We see them as one, journey and destination as one. This seeing as one is also referred to as fourth dimensional thinking. And I discussed this in my video, Fourth Dimensional Thinking, which is the Neville Goddard-based discussion as well, which I'll put a link in the description. The way to really understand this is through experience and practice. That's when these quotes here will make a lot more sense. So on your journey, as you bring forth what you desire and after you bring forth what you desire. Come back to these two quotes here and you will understand it even more. Now, to add to this, let's play a clip from one of Neville's lectures, which also says the same thing.
As he tells us in the 55th chapter of Isaiah, your ways are not my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. So do not ask how it's going to be done. All I have to do is to completely yield to this being within me. For he has ways and means I, on this level of my being, know not of.
So what we're referring to here is earth, which is the five sensory experience. And what we're referring to as well is the heaven, which is the sixth sense or imagination integration into the five sensory experience. And we're becoming more conscious in our ability to bring forth what we desire as a result of working with this process. That's one of the benefits of bringing forth success or bringing forth what you desire. You not only learn how to live, you also learn the valuable conscious integration of the two gifts, speech and mind, which is as valuable as the journey to the realization. So Neville states, the habit of withdrawing attention from the region of sensation and concentrating it on the invisible develops our spiritual outlook and enables us to penetrate beyond the world of sense and to see that which is invisible, which is what is in imagination, which is actually what is there. The only reason why we don't see it right now in this five sensory experience is because we're still recreating past experiences from the subconscious mind, as well as we are interpreting reality to work a certain way. And thus, what we experience on the journey is a reflection of our interpretations. Thus, we want to practice understanding the five sensory experience and relating it back to our vision. That means that what shows up on the journey, we don't see it as denial or breaking our flow or preventing us from bringing forth our dreams, our aspirations, that which we desire, but rather see it as, in a way, it is related. If you ask within, if you go within and ask, how is it related? The answer is also found within. Because this is part of the integration of the five sensory with the sixth sense. We call this having a connection with intuition. So take a person that we perceive as having a deep connection with their intuition. What we will find is they will interpret the five sensory experience from a different perspective. They will interpret it as seeing it as positive, in harmony, and in contribution to what they desire to create, as well as what you desire to create. I call the spirit of harmony, benefit for you, others, divine, and evolution. This interpretation found within is based on them conjuring up in their mind's eye an image of how it is actually related to the destination, what they are experiencing. So where is this image coming from? This is coming from the depths of the mind, the subconscious realm. This is the revelations, the signs, the synchronicities that are received within. Now, when a person lives like this, many of us will agree that this person has a high level of self-confidence and self-esteem. Not only are they able to interpret what they're experiencing in this five sensory world, you could say differently, but I would say more accurately, but they're also able to prove it in equation by bringing forth success again and again and again. Now, when we reverse engineer and study a person like this, we will assume that the way that they got to the destination was the things that they did. While this is true, that the way they got to the destination is through the bridge of incidents that revealed itself, it is also true that, and a lot of times we might not recognize it, that the source of this was the imagination, that the imagination willed the means. So, as Neville states, with its larger outlook, the fourth dimensional self then constructs the means necessary to realize the accepted end. So the means, the way it's brought forth, is found via the subconscious mind, subconscious realm, as a result of dwelling in and from that state of mind that represents the vision. Now, what this means is faith, loyalty to the unseen reality. And as you have faith, which is a matter of looking at what you experience on the five sensory journey to the destination, and asking yourself, what is the accurate interpretation? Now, we're not talking about from a place of denial. We're talking about from a place of deep understanding. How many times, if we reflect back on our journey, have we experienced something, a circumstance, or a conversation with a person, or an experience which we would call disempowering, and in that moment believed it to be something that will prevent us from getting what we desire, bringing forth what we desire? Only to realize that after we release from that reactivity, when we cool off and we bring ourselves to what James Allen refers to, the divine refuge within, or the kingdom of heaven within state of mind, we're able to really understand what it truly means. And from there, as we accept and understand it, we're able to find within the accurate interpretation of how it's actually in relation and in contribution to our vision. For example, when I started my business back in 2009, I recognized that the goal, the vision, was going to will the means. And I had learned this through practice and integration of Think and Grow Rich for many years prior to starting my business in 2009. And I didn't know how the results were going to be brought forth. I didn't know how success was going to happen. All I knew, it was going to happen, because upon integration of the principles from Think and Grow Rich, I was able to find myself out of $50,000 debt in ways that I never thought consciously were possible during the experiences that I had. All I knew is by following what he also referred to, which was the chapter of Sixth Sense, as well as the other principles, that some way, somehow, it was going to be brought forth. And I left it up to that faith, the loyalty to the unseen reality. And it was done. It was brought forth. Not only got out of debt, but I also bought my first house. And I also noticed that I was making way more money during that period in which I was getting out of debt. I also noticed that I found a deeper level of connection with who I truly am and my purpose and meaning. And so then when I started my IT business in 2009, I went in with that same state of mind. And although I don't have it to the same level of conviction that I have right now as a result of repetition and further integration of these concepts, I did have it to a certain degree that was enough to bring forth the result, which was a net result of me looking at reality from this same perspective, recognizing, as he states, with its larger outlook, the fourth dimensional self then constructs the means necessary to realize the accepted end. So I ended up meeting people, connecting with certain businesses, and doing a lot of things that we learn in marketing books, in sales, in business building. All of that were effects that were found as a result of further affirming that everything that would show up, and I had experienced different circumstances and challenges on the journey, was not hindering the progress, but rather revealing the way. So in other words, I was transmuting obstacles into opportunity. Then, when I acquired about 50 clients, I decided to transition out of my IT business in 2013 and do other things, including starting this YouTube channel. And the journey continues. Now, this relates to what he says here. The undisciplined mind finds it difficult to assume a state which is denied by the senses. So all throughout the journeys that we've experienced in our life, we have experienced what we call denied by the senses, or our interpretation of, accurately put, interpretation from within, because we are the molder as well as the interpreter of this experience, guided from within. Now, that stated, the interpreter is something that we can consciously do. We consciously reinterpret, and we don't see it as denied by the senses. We see it as, how is this related? How is this in contribution? Knowing that to the fourth dimensional self, all things exist, and all things exist in the eternal now, and all things are possible. So through his three-step process, which I spoke about last Sunday, which I'll put a link in the description, he mentions the following process to bring forth what you desire. The first step is changing the future via desire. What do you desire? Define your objective and know exactly what you want. Second, construct an event which you believe you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire, an event that implies fulfillment of your desire. So in my experiences, I would see myself as doing certain things, teaching people the very things that I learned in business, because for me, I've always been a fan of sharing and teaching. I consider being a teacher who I really am. And I enjoy sharing. Not only did it happen, but I now see myself experience it real time in the consulting, in making these videos, and the different seminars and different events that I've held as a result of imagining this. Now, I was so engaged in my imagination. I knew it was meant to be that as he states here, the fourth dimensional self then constructs the means necessary to realize and accept the end. Now, this fourth dimensional self constructs the means, and we're guided within via our imagination, intuition, and sixth sense. So someone who has a connection with this will listen to themselves. And I recommend watching the video in which I discuss the self-confidence formula, in which I also spoke about quantum leaps, because a lot of what Neville refers to is not incremental progress, but radical changes in the outer world to reflect the vision. Radical. And that is a net result of states of mind. See, our state of mind is either influenced by the outer world or influenced by our inner world. The inner world influence is more in alignment with this fourth dimensional self, the true self. Now, thirdly, he says, immobilize the physical body and induce a condition akin to sleep. Lie on a bed or relax in a chair and imagine that you are sleepy. Then, with eyelids closed and your attention focus on the attention you intend to experience in imagination, mentally feel yourself right now into the proposed action, imagining all the while that you are actually performing the action here and now. This is designed to transcend the fears, doubts, indecision, limited thinking of overly identified mental chatter and allow the scene to be selected and impressed on the subconscious mind, which then the fourth dimensional self and the divine realm within figures out, conjures up, and brings forth ways of bringing forth what you desire from that moment in ways that you would not necessarily consciously understand. Now, if you brought forth success many times, and let's say in the entrepreneurial space or whatever it is, you'll be able to figure out many different ways to create success by reverse engineering your success or studying from others. But however, we want to rely on our own inner connection with the subconscious mind to bring it forth in a way that is the most accurate and most in harmony. Otherwise, we get stuck in our head, overthinking, and looking around to see what other people are doing and acting based on what other people are doing, failing to recognize that we are actually guided within via the sixth sense, and what we're really doing is integrating the sixth sense, visual, imagination, as well as the other elements from the sixth sense, integration into the end result, final destination via the journey. Now, this is also happening on the journey. So our ability to remain in, and let's reflect back on the quote now because it'll make even more sense. Hermes Trismegistus said, "Things upon earth do not advantage those in heaven, but all things in heaven do profit and advantage all things upon earth." So it is from sixth sense, inner, true self, fourth dimensional self, expressed outwards and externalized. That's the way we want to live on the journey to the best of our ability to the fulfillment of what we desire to experience. And as a result, we understand this process and we live in and from that state, which is what we selected. And there are infinite states. You can go into your imagination and select any state, and you will always choose that what you truly desire. Because if you ask me to imagine something and I don't have a desire to imagine it, then I'm not going to want to imagine it. But if you say, "What do you truly want, Joseph? What do you truly desire?" then I will start to tell you about the things that I truly desire in the various areas of my life. And you'll be able to do it as well. And it'll be easier to imagine those things and apply what was referred to here in the third step, which is he was referring to this in state akin to sleep. Now, why was he referring to this in the state akin to sleep? So, because some of us might have a challenge in truly trusting and having faith that we have the ability from within to be guided from within via the sixth sense to bring forth that which we desire. And so when we do this in state akin to sleep, we bypass all that overly excessive, unnecessary complexity and convolution-based thinking that denies the assumption. And we can then impress the subconscious mind, which is doing the creation anyways. And you can reflect upon this by looking on your own journey, and certainly I'll look at my own journey and say the same thing, that there were times where I would say I want to do something, but for whatever the reason, I couldn't get myself to do it. And there were times where I would say something, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but some way, somehow I was able to do it. There was a result that I wanted to see, or an experience that I wanted to see brought forth in this outer world, and for some reason I wasn't able to do it. And then there were experiences that I would want to see in this outer world, and some way, somehow it was brought forth. Why is there a inconsistency between the two? Is the ability to connect with and integrate and to send that message into the subconscious mind. Now, some do this through affirmation, through imagination, through prayer, through conversations with yourself, through inner dialogue, and I had referred to this in inner conversations videos that we've been talking about. And we can practice this on the day-to-day journey as well. This is why we are taught to be lighthearted and be in flow. Because when we're lighthearted and when we're in flow, we're also integrating the five senses with the sixth sense. And even as Neville stated, we don't have to consciously know how it works. We just have to have faith and trust the process that it will be brought forth. And on the journey, maintain the integration by recognizing whatever shows up on the journey, that it's not in denial. There's no need to give up. We can always reinterpret and understand what it really means, accurate interpretation, and then continue on the journey to the fulfillment. So as he states, to the Christ mind, the spiritual mind, which in our language we call the fourth dimensional focus, the past, the present, and the future of the natural mind are a present whole. It takes in the entire array of sensory impressions that man has encountered, is encountering, and will encounter. So it knows ways then, a lot of times, the overly identified with mental chatter-based thinking mind does not understand, and always seeks to understand from that conscious level. But in order to understand, we integrate the conscious with the subconscious, the inner and the outer, the five senses with the sixth sense, and recognize that even if it doesn't seem like there's any proof in the five sensory experience, that the sixth sense was the originator of the five sensory experience. And I recommend watching my video that I did on discerning between the mental chatter and the true inner voice. So let's talk about flow now, which is essentially the journey to the destination. We want to maintain a state of mind, which I defined in the last video, I'll put a link in the description, of flow. And we want to maintain it because in flow, what it essentially implies is that whatever it is that shows up is not going to break, as we say, break your flow, but rather it is a bridge to bring forth what you desire. And so let's discuss these elements of flow and integrate it into our discussion. Clear goals at an abstract and granular level. Clear goals means what is it that you desire? And granular level goals can show up on the journey. If you say you want to bring forth a house, for example, then the journey of granular, let's say, could be certain things that you find from within that you got to do to fulfill that, such as find an agent. Then you'll find yourself engaged with the journey. Immediate reporting and feedback. The truth is that there's immediate reporting and feedback in everything. So from this perspective, we can look at immediate reporting and feedback as how we are interpreting the experience. Harmony between challenge and skill. So challenge, in this regard, is how we see the five sensory experience. Skill is connecting to the fourth dimensional self. It means that we don't see the things that show up as overly challenging to the point where we see it as denial, but rather engaging if we want that level of challenge, or complete acceptance. People, environment, circumstance, and information. Many different ways it could show up, but the thing we want to remember is that it is our interpretation that is changing whether we feel flow or not feeling flow on the journey. Actions and awareness become one. So Neville refers to this as inspired action. We know what to do, what to say, when to say, how to say. We become one with, and we follow our heart and intuition, as Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech. Distractions are excluded out of consciousness. Fear, doubt, and indecision tapers away. So what creates friction between the integration of the five senses, outer world, and our inner voice, inner connection, intuition, imagination of the sixth sense is what we refer to as fears, doubts, and indecision. We can understand these fears, doubts, and indecision, make peace with them, and release them or exclude them out of consciousness. Now, I mentioned in my last video, when you find yourself in flow, they are automatically excluded out of consciousness. So we want to keep that in consideration, and I recommend watching that video. Time is distorted because the fourth dimensional self, as stated here, sees the past, the present, and the future as now. The natural mind may see it as separate, but the fourth dimensional self sees all things exist now. So when we connect with the fourth dimensional self, or the five sensory integration with the sixth sense, then we notice that we have distortion of time. In the different things that we're doing, things seem to speed up or slow down. But that's not something that we consciously choose. It happens automatically, and it's a facilitation of being in flow, the ideal state of mind. You can call flow a state of love, ideal state of mind, or being in flow. All of this is referring to the same thing. It's the day-to-day journey till you bring forth what you desire. In the entrepreneurial endeavor, it's all the things that happen in between till you experience that end result. Could be the operational stuff, the building the business, the clients, all that stuff happens unto and through you, and you'll be guided from within on how to interpret the different experiences and what to do and what not to do. We call this Wu Wei, knowing when to act, when not to act, which is Taoist philosophy. Now, this is the goal here. Autotelic. The activity and the person becomes autotelic. So our goal is to bring forth what we desire, stay committed on the journey, and stay committed, remain committed till it's brought forth. And through there, we purify the mind, remove limiting doubts, interpretations, ideas, and perspectives on ourselves in relation to others, in relation to people, circumstance, environment, information, anything in the five sensory experience, as well as inner world, inner conversations, inner dialogue. And then as a result, we have integration, a deep level of integration between the sixth sense, inner world, the kingdom of heaven within, and the five sensory experience, and we're living in and from our imagination. At this point, the person is said to be autotelic. They know what to do, what to say, they're not stuck in their head, and this increases more and more so each day as a result of knowing two things. Number one, that what you desire to be brought forth, you are right now on the journey to the fulfillment of what you desire to see brought forth. And number two, whatever shows up on the journey, you can find the accurate interpretation within. Your inner voice, intuition, guides you from within. It could be in the outer world, a book, an information, a person, or it could be inner world. For me, nowadays I'm noticing a lot more inner world. Before it'd be books, consultants, mentors, and so forth. It happens both ways. And as a result, you're able to ascend and transcend past limiting beliefs and assumptions-based meaning that you've given to the five sensory experience of your past, as well as the five sensory experience that you're experiencing right now on the journey to the destination. And as a result, you are further integrating the five sensory experience with the sixth sense. Then you understand one of the quotes from the book The Kabbalion, more and more so, which was stimulated by the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, and when they said, everything is and isn't at the same time. Now, to a mind that has not accepted the fourth dimensional view of reality, it seems like a conflict. How can something be is and isn't at the same time? Well, we look at it this way. Everything is and isn't at the same time, and that the answer depends, and you find the accurate meaning within as to what the answer is it depends on. And you will know whether it's the accurate meaning. So we're looking at integrating the five senses from the sixth sense. The sixth sense provides the accurate meaning. And the five senses also can stimulate a reflection of that accurate meaning through consciousness externalized, such as a book, a person, a video, a piece of content, or whatever it is that you're using to learn how to bring forth your goal, your destination, as well as to understand, which is very much in parallel. Yourself, understand yourself. So what does this mean? As stated, we've got the journey and the destination. Through bringing forth what you desire, by staying committed to the destination and bringing forth what you desire, you also, at the same time, develop a deeper five sensory to sixth sense integration. Then, as you bring forth what you desire and create success after success, you'll find that it's easier to do it. it is then said that you have a high level of self-confidence and self-esteem. But what we can really look at as to what this means at a deep level of high level of self-confidence, self-esteem, is your level of integration of the five senses and your interpretation from within, guided from within, via accurate thinking and intuition of the sixth sense, which is infinite in nature and knows ways that are based on the infinite reality of the heavenly realm within, infinity reality of the divine realm within. From another practical way of looking at this is how innovation is brought forth in the world of entrepreneurship. Look around and see all the innovation. This exact process that I'm referring to is how innovation is brought forth. It is believing something exists when we don't see it in the five senses, and it may not even present any proof in the five senses, and the five senses may even deny that that exists. But to the entrepreneur, the person that holds true to the vision, they're able to, from within, be guided to work with the five sensory elements to bring forth what they desire. And as a result, we see it. And then after we see it, we may reverse engineer how that person got there and believe that that's the only way. And we still want to remember that that's just one way of the infinite ways that we have access to within to bring forth what we desire. If you want to copy this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.